Number 3, which I think is the most difficult of those sort of situations. So Larry then is, as we remember, he can't breathe on his own. What he requests then is to be able to switch off the ventilator so as to be able to die. And the question being then, do we have to, simply because a form of treatment is available, do we have to receive it? And traditionally, moral theology responded by saying, well, we should receive ordinary forms of treatment, but extraordinary forms of treatment should be considered optional. Yeah? And so there was a sense in which, well, let's draw up a list of what might be considered as ordinary forms of treatment, and let's draw up a list of extraordinary sort of forms of treatment. And the ordinary ones being those which are readily available to you, those which are considered to be normal, run-of-the-mill, and extraordinary ones being those which are more experimental, perhaps, or less readily available. But in the way in which I think a number of us started to point out was, well, what you might consider as ordinary in one situation isn't ordinary in another, in a different culture, in a different sort of setting, time in somebody's life. It just doesn't seem very helpful or possible to describe some things as ordinary, some as extraordinary in and of themselves. And so there's a movement then in moral theology to move away from describing actions in and of themselves, to say, well, what parts do those actions play in the life of an individual? And they move on to speak of, which is where the document picks up, proportionate and disproportionate forms of treatment. By way of saying that one should be considered as obliged to receive proportionate forms of treatment, but not disproportionate. They should be considered as optional. And the proportion lying between, what benefit does this form of treatment provide in terms of my overall health, in terms of my, you know what I mean, how beneficial is this form of treatment to me? And on the other side, how burdensome is this form of treatment? And to find a proportionality between the two. So if there's a form of treatment which provides huge benefits to me and very little burden, then it should be considered as one that I should take, really, because its benefits far outweigh the burden. However, if there's a form of treatment which seems to offer very little benefit and actually is exceedingly burdensome, disproportionate, then I should be able to make a decision about whether to receive that or not. And that's the context to where the document sort of picks up. So the document just goes on, like we say, some people speak of proportionate and disproportionate means of treatment. That's what we said. In any given case, it will be possible to make a correct judgment as to the means of treatment by studying the type of treatment to be used, its degree of complexity or risk, its cost, and comparing these elements with the results that can be expected, taking into account the state of the sick person and his or her physical and moral resources. It may be judged that the investment in instruments and personnel is disproportionate to the results foreseen. It may also be judged that the techniques applied impose on the patient strain or suffering out of proportion with the benefits which he or she may gain from such techniques. Do you have a sort of feel of what's sort of being said? I think all of those elements were things that we were all throwing into the pot, really, weren't we? I mean, what effect is it going to have? Is he somebody who is actually moral resources, is they reduced at the moment? Is there something of the burden that is being placed upon him? All of these things are perhaps the things that need balancing and making a decision. And so, in direct response, then, we're not morally obliged then to receive or provide treatment which will not provide a proportionate improvement in the quality of life as a whole compared to the burden of the treatments. And I think the example we were using over here, one of the things was about, say, chemotherapy, perhaps. I mean, it's a lot more it's a lot closer to home than perhaps somebody on a ventilator, you know. But it's a situation in which lots of us in our parish here at the moment, there's two friends of mine are probably at that position at the moment, really, that the treatment that they're having is just so burdensome to them. You know, one for instance has been sick all the time, and she has no energy, feels horrible, is unable to spend time with her family because she's so overwhelmed by sort of illness, and it is palliative rather than curative. It will hopefully lengthen her life, but it won't cure the cancer sort of for her. And you know, in those situations, some people say, I want to lengthen my life as long as I can, so that I can spend as much time as I can with my family, with everybody. And for others to say, I want to spend a shorter amount of time, but I want to be able to spend good time with my family. And to be able to recognise that there's an option for us there. Which is often different, isn't it, to what people's sort of caricature of what the Church and the Catholic Church particularly has to sort of say. Life at all costs, you know. But actually what the document and what the Church is trying to say is something more subtle, really. And I think it's worth noting and feeling proud of that and feeling sort of positive about that. But here's a teaching of the Church which is genuinely trying to deal, and with good moral principles,